Test, test. Oh, here we go. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Jacqueline Weston, and I am the Executive Director of the Union. We are gathered here tonight for a simple but powerful reason: to talk to one another, to listen, to ask questions, and to imagine together what it looks like to rebuild democracy from the ground up, starting right here in Paris. The Union, just to give you a quick little information about the Union, we are a growing coalition of everyday Americans working across all 50 states to support decent and competent candidates and help restore faith in public service. We're not a political party. We're neighbors, organizers, volunteers, and voters who believe in showing up and helping others do the same. Our mission is about connection and conversation. That's where it begins. That's what tonight is all about, and hearing what's on your mind, sharing resources, and making sure none of us feel like we're doing this work alone. So again, thank you for being here. We're excited to get started and even more excited to continue to rebuild our democracy with you all. And so with that, we're going to dive right in, and would love to introduce you to our first guest speaker, Cecilia English, who is the Eastern Indivisible chapter leader.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy that y'all are here tonight. Seeing everybody in this room and how many of you decided to come out tonight, because believe me, I know how stretched we all are, how busy everybody is on a Friday night in June. I know how busy I am, so thank you all for being here. I'm Cecilia English. I am the leader of Eastern Illinois Indivisible. We are a grassroots group working across Clark, Coles, Cumberland, and Edgar County. We're part of a national movement built on a simple idea: that democracy doesn't trickle down, it rises up from our communities, our values, and our willingness to show up for each other, like here, right here in this room, like what you're doing right now. And that's what this is all about. We're here because decisions in Washington on tariffs, Medicaid, and SNAP are landing squarely on our lives. They're not abstract. They're on our farms, in our grocery stores, our doctor's offices, and our kitchen tables. This is community conversations, and with the Union, we brought together some powerful voices to help us understand what's happening and what we can do about it. First, we'll hear from Dr. Tim Mason, Associate Professor of Economics at Eastern Illinois University, now retired. Dr. Mason taught for over 3 decades, including courses in international trade. He'll start us off with a clear look at how tariffs and global policy are impacting local economies like ours, and what that might mean. Then we'll hear from Jennifer Todd, a single mom and a small business owner who is also running for Congress in Illinois' 15th district, challenging Representative Mary Miller. Jennifer is a nurse with more than 30 years of experience, and like many of us, she's faced the rising cost of living, the strain on our healthcare system, and the feeling that working people are being left behind. After that, we'll hear from Josh Collins, candidate for Illinois House District 102. Josh is a husband and a father and a cybersecurity expert with 15 years in IT. He is focused on protecting Illinois' economy from the ground up by ensuring every resident has access to food, healthcare, and housing, by fighting for honesty and transparency in Springfield. And finally, we welcome Phil Stapp, somebody you guys probably know. A longtime local advocate and founder of Be the Change, Phil understands this community, its people, its politics, and its struggles. And he's here to speak on how national policy shows up in everyday life in Edgar County. We also extended invitations to Congresswoman Mary Miller and Representative Adam Nemers. Now, we never heard back. They never returned our emails, our phone calls, none of it. They never even extended a courtesy. And we reached out a lot, y'all. We believe public servants should show up and they should listen when their constituents ask. That's why we're here, for a little community conversation. That's why these people are here, because they want to show up for you. And they really want to know what you have to say. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for caring, and thank you for taking the time to ask questions and share stories and help build the kind of future that we all deserve. So let's get started.
Hello. It's been about 8 years since I've been in the classroom. The uniform still fits. Are there farmers here? Anybody farm? One? Any economists in the room? That me? We feel pretty safe then. I only have one person who can check on me. Sorry? Sure. Oh, econ does everything. We know that. All right. Just a brief reminder. I'm sure economics was your favorite course in college, etc. And a reminder about get that. This did not move when I moved. Yeah, that's why. Okay, so as you may well know, and I'm sorry for going over this at the basic level, but a tariff, it's just another word for a tax. It's a tax we put on imported goods. Most typically, the tax is paid by the importer. And our current administration has decided that they want to place on what are called reciprocal tariffs. That is, the countries have a certain tariff rate that taxes our goods going to their country. We're going to put one on that matches that. That was the idea. Now, a lot of these other countries don't have the sophisticated income and property and sales tax things that we have in the United States. I mean, yeah, sure, Europe does. I don't know what China does, but I don't think they need to worry about government revenue. But a lot of these other countries do. The smaller countries do rely on tariffs as a good source of their federal income. So it kind of makes sense, and it's not like, well, let me continue. The importer, of course, having to pay this tax. This is just another cost to the importer. And every time a cost goes up, you don't want to absorb it. That'll cut into your own profits. And so instead, they try and pass that on to whoever their buyers are, whether that may be other manufacturers, in the case of such things as aluminum and steel, or directly to the customer in the case of iPhones. That's what it's good. And I apologize. I whipped this up at pretty much the last minute. And my wife, who also taught, will tell me, too many words. So I'll try and get all through that. So, y'all remember the law of demand? Yep. Okay. Price goes up, people don't buy as much. I tell you, that's why I went into econ. It's a pretty simple science. When people aren't buying as much, that creates a surplus. And a surplus puts downward pressure on the price. And so the resulting price is going to be somewhere between the pre-tariff price and then the pre-tariff price plus whatever the tariff is, because the importer would like to get all of that recouped. Is it little example I came up with, easy numbers. So consider two wrenches, they both sell for $10. One's made in China, one's made in the United States, with a 30% tariff, which is one of the tariff rates that's been applied to China in the last month, somewhere between there and 145%, depending on what it is, and whether or not we just got a deal done. All right, so with a 30% tariff, that's gonna bump up the Chinese price, let's say to 30% more, $13. People who are choosing between the US wrench and the Chinese wrench were fine with either one, but now they're gonna say, well, why would I pay an extra $3? I can buy the US wrench. Some people prefer the handle or the shininess of the Chinese wrench. So not everybody's gonna stop buying Chinese wrenches, but some people are, and many more will buy the US wrench. So, then the Chinese wrench is gonna fall. Again, creates a surplus. Creates a surplus, puts downward pressure on the price. That price is probably gonna end up somewhere between $13 and $10. From the US side, a couple of things happen. One is that if more people are now buying the US wrench, that creates a shortage, and so that sends a signal to the manufacturers to just produce more wrenches, sell more wrenches. Another thing, it's not on this particular slide, it's just the idea that, oh, well, if the Chinese wrench is selling for $13, maybe I can sell my wrench for $13 because, you know, we want to make a profit. It's a capitalist society, that's what we do. And economists always assume that people are trying to maximize their profit. So the price of the US wrench is certainly going to rise. Both prices will eventually settle into some new equilibrium, not necessarily the same price. In this example, probably would be if they're identical wrenches. So, summation. The foreign suppliers, they're losers in this tariff deal from the US. They're going to sell fewer wrenches, and they're going to get to keep a smaller amount. I mean, the price of the wrench may be settled at $12, but they got to pay $3 in the tariff. So they're going to be getting a lower price. Domestic U.S. consumers are also going to lose because now we'll have fewer wrenches and very likely in a lot of industries fewer choices of what to buy, depending on what comes here or not. And we're going to be paying higher prices. The winners tend to be the domestic suppliers. They gain. They're going to sell more wrenches and they're going to get to keep a higher price. So there's one good side. And that's one reason often given for imposing a tariff, is to help the domestic industries, to protect the domestic industry. But we're not imposing tariffs on corn and soybeans, so what's the big deal? Why should we care? And the reason we care is that, as nearly always happens when one country, such as the United States, puts a tariff on goods from another country, or in this case, the rest of the world, then the rest of the world's going to react to that. They're not going to stand by and say, oh, that's all right, yeah, sure, we'll take less. They're going to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. products. And of course, what the U.S. Exports a lot of is agricultural products, corn and soybeans, primarily from around here. So that is what, remember from the, go back, right?
Yes, they'll go back and say,
We'd be the foreign supplier to the rest of the world. So we're losing. We're going to sell fewer bushels of corn and soybeans and wheat and whatever else we're selling. So, again, the tariffs keep on changing depending on which countries made a deal or not made a deal, or there's an announced deal that may or may not be a deal, it may be just a framework of a deal.
And the market loves instability.
And the market loves instability, indeed, yes. I had one farmer back here. What plan did you make for this year? Did you plant more corn?
No, we're planting all soybeans this year.
all soybeans this year. Okay, that kind of bucks the trend, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but that's how we are, because we are not, our land is not contiguous. We have to travel at least an hour to get to the farm.
Oh.
So therefore, it's more advantageous for us to do one type of crop every year. So last year was corn, this year is soybeans.
I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a suburban boy. And I was very interested to find out what volunteer corn meant. I didn't have any idea what that was. And I do now. Been here for some while. So, back from when the current and past president put tariffs on items back in 2018 and 19. Here's some data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Retaliatory tariffs imposed by 6 major trading partners, Canada, China, Turkey, Mexico, and the EU and India, resulted in estimated losses of over $27 billion in U.S. agriculture exports. I didn't have time to put the slide up in here, but if you look at acres of soybeans planted from 2018 to 2019, it's going up to 2019, and back up in 2020. But yeah, it took quite a hit. Soybeans alone accounted for 70% of those losses. China, along with other trading partners, began shifting to more reliable suppliers like Brazil and Argentina. Block your view of the slides. I think they're really great. Full black and white. And this is from a policy analyst at the Cato Institute, not exactly your liberal think tank, the Cato Institute. The article I found in Newsweek just a few days ago. Rather than stabilize agricultural production, Trump's tariff-driven bailouts deepen dependency and inefficiency. That is, last time, one thing that the Trump administration did said, well, we can't leave farmers alone, we're going to send you more money.
Yeah,
How'd that do?
yeah, that's welfare for the richer farmers.
Yeah, for the
And guess
corporate
who
farmers.
pays for it? Everybody else.
There you go. They introduced uncertainty and compelled importers in countries like China to source more of their ag imports from other countries. That's just a normal response. Meanwhile, U.S. farmers are being squeezed on the cost side as well. We put tariffs on steel and aluminum from Canada and Germany and elsewhere. They've driven up the cost of farm equipment, which is not cheap to begin with. And trade restrictions have made a few key inputs like fertilizers more expensive. Canada, a big supplier of potash, for example, are facing these barriers. So, yeah, the farmers are getting squeezed from both sides. You're going to get less, you're going to sell less, and you're going to pay more on the resale. If history repeats itself, says the same policy analyst, American farmers caught once again in the crossfire of economic nationalism will be left with fewer markets, more expensive supplies, and increased reliance on federal aid. For taxpayers, the bill will be high. For the U.S. trade credibility is kind of hard to get to be an oxymoron. It will be even better. I found this the other day from a Republican representative from Nebraska. You talk to the Farm Bureau, the cattlemen, some of our biggest meat producers here are for beef. They're already getting their markets shut off. We've already seen the impact on our exports in Nebraska. We've lost markets access in Europe, primarily, particularly with our beef and popcorn and things like that. So we are going into a recession in the Midwest. That's, Republican representative from Nebraska. All right, one of the reasons for imposing a tariff often brought up is, well, it protects the domestic industry, the domestic producers gain. So let's take a look at that particular reason while I'm here. Domestic suppliers, again, they win, they sell more wrenches, they get it at a higher price, they will or ought to increase their workforce accordingly. So employment might rise. But again, we have to look at, well, what happened last time? And this has happened time and time again when we impose tariffs on stuff. Researchers by economists from the Federal Reserve and then two guys from the University of Chicago, which tends to have a lock on winning Nobel Prizes in economics. They never look downstate. The authors calculate that the tariffs brought in $82 million to the U.S. Treasury. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. So government revenues rise. Well, it's a tax, so it's tax revenue. While raising consumer prices by $1.5 billion. $82 million in revenue, costing taxpayers $1,500 million in higher prices. It's like, just let us give you the $82 million, we'll be better off. Similarly, the study authors credit Mr. Trump's previous tariffs with 200 new jobs at Whirlpool plants in Clyde, Ohio, further 1,600 jobs at a Samsung factory in South Carolina and an LG factory in Tennessee. So that's 1,800 new jobs created by these. The tariff, I think, was on washers and dryers, is what they're looking at. 1,800 new jobs with, again, 1.5 billion increase in what American consumers are paying for those washers and dryers. Get your calculators out. That's $817,000 per job saved. So, I'm not sure how many steel workers or the guys working in the Whirlpool or LG plants are actually making $817,000 a year. I'm guessing it didn't go all to the labor force. The finding is consistent with previous research, including one in 2012, that found that tariffs on Chinese tires cost consumers $926,500 for each of the 1,200 U.S. jobs it saves. So, yeah, it increases employment a little bit, but it comes at a very high cost. You cannot possibly read this table. I don't know if you're sending anything out with this later, and you can include this dog and pony show I put up here, but it's just a list of goods, the consumer losses, producer gains, and annual consumer losses per job saved, and we go all the way down. It talks about manufacturing, services, agriculture, and fisheries, down to mining. The entire average annual consumer losses per job saved, $235,712. $236,000 per job saved. The last column is annual consumer losses per job saved in 2016 dollars. That first one, that I should have just gone to the last table. It's a little over $500,000 per job saved in 2016 dollars, and we've had a little bit of inflation since then, so it's even more now. If the idea is to protect the domestic industries, I taught my international classes all the time, it is far more efficient to simply subsidize that industry. Now, we get into trouble because we're not supposed to be subsidizing industries with our World Trade Agreements and what used to be called GATT, et cetera. We're trying to make it free trade, trying to reduce those. That's just another trade barrier when we subsidize. But that's about it for my spiel, and I'll be happy to answer questions you want to do now. You want to do it later?
We're going to hold questions until the end, so
Okay.
that's why you have Post-it notes to write your questions on. So we are now moving on.
Thank you for your kind
You
attention.
can sit.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. on 70, so I had to come 57 across. So as I said, my name is Jennifer Todd. I live down in Edwardsville at this time. I'm 3 miles from the actual line of 13 and 15 crossover. So per Illinois state law, you do not have to be a resident of the district that you're running for. But once we win, my goal is I'm going to be moving to the district. And I'm looking more as in looking at more in the middle. So I'm looking at Logan County, Mason County to make it easier to go west, east, west. This is a huge, huge district, a total of 35 counties. And so it's a lot of miles on the card. I'm going to talk mostly about healthcare. Since I have been a nurse for the past 30 years, I've seen a lot of changes in healthcare, some for the good, some for the bad, mostly for the bad. That the biggest thing is with this supposedly, big better bill and so forth that, they say, oh no, we're not going to cut Medicaid, we're not going to cut Medicaid. Yes, you are. I actually took some numbers today, and just alone in Edgar County, 34% of the residents in this county is on Medicaid. And so you're going to lose area services, and I'm not sure, but your hospital end up losing all their services because that's probably how they get pretty much 95% of their payment is through Medicaid. And it's just, there's going to be deserts again. There's already hospital deserts. You have to drive, here or to Indiana to get any type of services that's close by. And so it's just, it's going to make it harder and harder to be able to get the needed services. And it's sad to say that people are going to die. The biggest thing is with our nursing home individuals, with our older adults that live in the nursing home. Medicare pays up to 100% for the first 100 days. And that's skilled days. That means they have to be able to tolerate physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy. Or they're getting IV antibiotics, they're too good to be in the hospital, but they still need to be on the IV antibiotics for an additional 6 weeks. But once day 101 hits, Medicare stops paying room and board. And that's where Medicaid picks up. Because Medicaid will pay that room and board. And pretty much any individual that is in a nursing home will have both. It doesn't matter what their status is, what their health status is and so forth. They will be on both services because of the room and board. Same thing with a lot of your assisted livings, a lot of your group homes. They're pretty much all paid by Medicaid to be there. And what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to take grandma and grandpa home with you, take care of them? Because that's what's going to end up happening. Because room and board's expensive, so your nursing homes are going to end up shutting down because they need to pay their staff. They're already understaffed as it is. And it's just, they're not seeing the big picture. They're just seeing the bottom dollar amount. They're not seeing how the lives are going to be affected by this bill. And it's common decency. You take care of your elders. You take care of the ones that can't take care of themselves. That's what I've always brought up on. And we're not going to be able to do that. Individuals that have children in a group home and all this because they cannot take care of them at home. They have, developmental disabilities, they have severe autism, different individuals like that, behavioral issues, they need that access to those services. Once they go home, they're not going to have those services. And mom and dad's not going to be able to pay for those services because they're going to have to quit their job because they're going to have full-time care. Same thing with your loved ones coming home from the nursing home. they're gonna need full-time care. It means you have to stay home. It means you lose income and not be able to pay your bills. And so you're gonna have individuals that are going to essentially die because of lack of care. It's not because the family doesn't want to. There's no financial ability to be able to do that because they have to quit their jobs to be able to take care of their family. And some individuals can do that, but I know a lot of people around, well, a lot of people that I know I couldn't. And so it's kind of one thing right after the other. And it's just, it terrifies me right now about this. And you see it more and more. And, we're just now starting to get services paid by Medicare and Medicaid. And now they're going to take all those services away. Especially for individuals like myself who are obese. We're starting to have where they're getting medications paid for. They're for weight loss. They're having surgeries paid for weight loss. But that just kind of went away because President Biden had signed an executive order to be able to Medicare to pay for weight loss medications because they used not to. Now that went away. The big thing is that we have individuals that do not qualify for weight loss surgery because of health, but they qualify for medication. But your medication costs $1,000 a month, you can't pay for that. Like any of the medications and so forth here lately, that, they got brought it down to insulin. The big thing right now is insulin. They had it for brought it down to $35 a month. I had gentlemen tell me for 1 year that the insulin was over $14,000. And this is life-saving medications that people have to have. Because if they start rationing their insulin, the blood sugars are going to go high. You're going to go into athletic diabetic coma, and then they're going to die. Especially if there's no one at home to be able to find, to watch them, because of the rationing, and they're going to have more people in the emergency rooms because of this. So it's kind of a cycle that we have started to break, and now that piece is being taken away again. And so it's going to be more cycle and cycle and cycle going around. Another thing that has been taken away after everything that was COVID and all this, telehealth was taken away. That Medicare was paying for it and so forth. And that was an absolutely godsend for so many people, especially individuals in the rural areas, if you had internet access and so forth, we'd be able to get to see their doctor. Yes, it might be, I had several telehealth, visits and so forth, and I had to do my little exercise, my little, walking and different things in front of the camera for the neurologist. But it's just, but these are things that, we need to expand that. And we have better coverage for people. And so it was just kind of, especially if they're, they need to see the cardiologist. Well, their cardiologist is in Springfield. And travel back and forth to Springfield. You can do it online. And it's just, there are things like, these little things that people don't, we have technology for it. Let's be able to use it. So, that's kind of, that my big thing mostly is Medicaid. Medicare, it needs to be expanded, but not within Medicare Advantage programs. Those are just, I used to do insurance appeals. So I would appeal to the insurance company that has something paid. And with the Medicaid Advantage plans, we had a special template because it had to be a certain way to be able to be done, or they wouldn't pay for it. And because of Medicaid Advantage being the private insurance companies, they can do whatever they want. There's no regulation on that. And so it was just, people just don't understand sometimes because they're not really instructed, but it's not explained to them to where they can understand it. And so that's what my big thing is, to be able to break things down, to be able to explain things so everyone can be able to understand it. So that's really about it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Collins. I'm sorry, that's a little bit loud. My name is Josh Collins. I am running for the State House of Representatives here in Illinois for our District 22. A little bit about myself. I am a 43-year-old cybersecurity analyst. I originated from Tampa, Florida. I spent 40 years of my life trying to get out of Florida. Buy a house and sell it just to get out of Florida. I have a wide range of things that I'd like to cover, but I'm going to kind of isolate on SNAP benefits. Now, who in here knows somebody who has had SNAP food stamps? Exactly. There's a lot of us. I am a father of 3 teenagers. When they were young, we were not only on SNAP, we also were on WIC, which is why I can thank this fantastic physique for. Lots of milk, lots of peanut butter. Yeah. Anyways, due to the cuts that DOGE is implementing and this horrific bill, that's going to cut several people off of these SNAP benefits. Now, who enjoys the free lunches that they get for their kids at school? Yeah, a lot of people. I know that having 3 children, especially teenagers, having to try and pay for their lunches would definitely put a very big dent into our budget. I know that it would definitely make it a little bit harder for us. I know that it would make it harder for a lot of other people. Their cuts to SNAP benefits are going to end up taking away those free lunches. That is what pays for our schools' free lunches. So not only would it take away those free lunches, it's going to actually drop a lot of children off of SNAP, family and children. They've set new regulations. I don't know about you, but a lot of senior citizens also are on SNAP after they retire. My stepfather, not only is he on SNAP, he also is on Social Security as well, and Medicaid. These cuts are going to significantly hurt a man who has diagnosed liver cancer. He's going to lose his Medicaid benefits, he's going to lose his food benefits, and he's going to lose his Social Security. That's a trifecta cut to his lifestyle of a retired conflict. They've also raised the age limit for these benefits. It used to be that you were able to, I believe it was 61, you could qualify for SNAP benefits once you retired. They've now raised that up to you must be working till the age of 65 to be able to qualify for SNAP. If you are not working from the ages of 61 to 65, you will not be able to raise benefits. They've also changed the age limit for younger children. I believe if your children are under 7.
Over the age of 7 is no longer counted as dependent for calculating SNAP benefits.
Yes, over the age of 7, they are no longer counted as benefit, as dependents for SNAP benefits. If you're on the
Are they supposed to get their own job? Apparently, yes.
Apparently, the thought process is if you are within a certain age range, you should be well enough and fit enough to get out and work and be able to pay for your own food. They have, in Florida, they have just lowered the ages for or child labor so that you can work, well, basically so that you can work overnights now between the ages of 14 up to 16, and from 16 to 17, they are no longer required to give lunches. So they expect you to go out and work. What they don't understand is that 80% of the people that are already on SNAP benefits, they're already, I know whenever we were on SNAP, I was working, my wife was taking care of our kids because God knows a 2-year-old and two infants is quite a challenge. The other percentage are people who are either retired and disabled or they're caregivers. They are taking care of the family. But they assume that if you are on SNAP, that you're just being lazy, that you're not working. They think that we are the waste and fraud. They think that if you are on SNAP, that means that you're just sitting in your parents' basement playing video games. Although that is fun, don't get me wrong. I enjoy playing video games. I used to stream. It's fun. But that's usually not the case. SNAP it's a stepping stone. It helped my wife and I raise 3 kids while we improved ourselves and improved our careers. I was working in a sandwich shop when we had our children. I was making $13 an hour. If it wasn't for SNAP, we wouldn't have been able to feed our children. These are things that people depend on. These are not handouts. Or if you could write down your questions till the end, I appreciate it. I'm not going to be much longer. I did want to expand on a couple other points for Medicaid. Please keep in mind, our hospital here, it is the only major hospital for miles. If they cut Medicaid benefits, our hospital is the one that's going to hurt. Our hospital is the one that could face shutting down. People are already driving hours just to get care here. They don't have major hospitals in many of the other towns. Please keep that in mind. Our hospital here in Paris, it is a big chunk of Paris's economy. If it shuts down, we lose a big chunk of our economic welfare. It will devastate Paris directly. Please keep that in mind. As for, I'd like to dive in a little bit into my bread and butter. Like I said, I am a cybersecurity analyst. I have been for the last 6 years. Our government has cut back on several of our protective policies when it comes to IT and cybersecurity. I have seen a spike in a lot of threats just in my day-to-day job. I don't know exactly how to explain and express to you how much that alone scares me. By clawing back those policies, we are a very connected, very online community. We are no longer just in this town. We're no longer just in our state. Who has friends in Canada? Who has friends in other countries? By rolling back those policies, they have made each one of us more vulnerable. There's been a spike in daily attacks from countries, I see them all the time. I see spiking attacks from India, Russia, China. They heard that they rolled this back. They know that we are now vulnerable on a technological scale. The policies that the administration has put in place, they're going to have a major impact. If they don't have them yet, if you don't feel them yet, they're going to start feeling it soon. They are sneaking up. They are hurting us. Ladies and gentlemen, the whole reason why I'm here is because we decided to make, out of the entire United States, I work remotely. My company that I work for is in Florida. We had a chance to go anywhere in the United States. We looked, even in Alaska. We found our home here in Paris. I want to do everything that I can to help insulate Illinois' economy from the negative impacts that the current administration's policies are going to eventually cause us. Right now, I know that there is a big divide when it comes to the governor and several people in our Southern Illinois community. But he is already making a lot of steps to try and insulate us. I would like to expand upon some of those policies, especially when it comes to SNAP. We end up bringing in more economic revenue with every SNAP dollar spent than we put out. For about every SNAP dollar that we spend, we get about $1.80 in economic revenue. Also, as we mentioned earlier, USA does subsidize a lot of our farms. Several of the money that is spent to subsidize our farms actually comes in through the SNAP program, through USA. Since they cut that, that also means that they cut subsidies to our larger farms. Excuse me. Now, mind you, these are corporate bailouts. This doesn't help our smaller local farms. What I already would like to propose is actually helping bring that to a state level so that we can do that on a more isolated scale for Illinois itself, for our smaller, non-corporate farms. We're not wasting fraud. We are people. We are a community. And this current administration's bill that they're trying to push through will not only kill people by removing their Medicaid, it will make children, your children, our children, go hungry. It will take away their school lunches. I want to help keep that from happening to us. I think that Illinois and its residents are innovative and smart enough to work together to help keep this from happening. This is not a speech. I would love to hear some of the problems that you guys have. We would all love to hear some of the issues that you have, so that we can work with you to help improve your lives. And if this does go through, help it from hurting your families. Thank you guys so much.
Apologies. We had one question that was put in before we even started, y'all. It was, what are your thoughts on term limits and stock trading while in office?
Yes, on term. Yes, on term limits. Here, I'm
yes on term limits. And no one should be trading stocks while they're in office. None. I wouldn't have any problem with that because I had none.
Same.
So, but, we need to do away with that too. But, with the career politician, it's just, you have to have new blood. And right now, that's what we need, is a lot of new blood. We need people that, like myself, that I know exactly what everybody's going through. I've been on unemployment, I've been on SNAP, I've been, my daughter received 3 lunches. And I know what the struggle is. And we do not have enough people in Congress that has had that struggle. And we don't have enough nurses in Congress. Right now, there's 3. One is Warren Underwood, who is congressperson from up north here. And the other 2 are Republicans. And we need those nurses to be able to, do the Medicare and do the Medicaid and get things pushed through. Because we know what it's like to be able to have no resources and to be able to take care of our patients. So yes, my term limits and no, it sucks. Yeah, well, yeah.
I also agree. We're supposed to serve the people, and I think they forgot how this started. People took time out of their year to step up, make policies, and then they go back to their homes and they go back to their jobs. I don't want to do politics. I don't want to do politics the rest of my life. I'll be honest with you. My motto was always, I know the world's falling apart. I don't want to know the details. I don't want to go into politics for the rest of my life. I want to do this for a couple of terms. I want to make some changes. And then I want to go back to boring, regular, everyday life where I can have Nerf wars with my children and, not drive 2 hours away to the capital. I personally do not have stocks. I did for a while. I tried to do crypto on Robinhood. It never went anywhere. So I have no problems with signing either of those 2 policies. But I believe we were going to bring up.
Yeah,
Phil?
real, before we get too far into the Q&A, I skipped a step. Phil, come on up. Pick a microphone.
So we're good, can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool, this is a little intimidating. I don't have a degree in economics, I'm not a medical professional, and I don't even own a computer. But what I do and am very good at is caring. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Phil Stapp. I run a community enrichment group called Be the Change. We started in about 2018. We pick up trash. We help with the unhoused in our community. We do what we can to help with those suffering from substance abuse, as well as use our numbers to bolster the other groups in town that hold events to help for those things. We've raised money for HRC. We've raised money for Hopes and Dreams, Inc. Our goal is to just make things better. By the way, you have my vote. That's fantastic, absolutely. But I'm here to kind of build upon what they said because of our community. I'm going to try not to tear up a little bit. I have held all sorts of hats while I've been here in Paris. I've been here for about 34 years now, give or take, wherever my mom smuggled me over from Indiana. I worked at DD Homes, if anyone's familiar with that, Ivy Terrace. They work with the intellectually disabled individuals there. You may have seen them out of Music in the Park, out in different events in the community. they're fantastic people, and sitting back in the back of the room and just thinking about the impact of them not having those facilities and knowing that a lot of them don't have parents to go to. What are those people going to do? Where are they going to go, and who's going to take care of them if there isn't funding for it? They're going to die. Yeah, they're going to die. And when it comes down to it, let's take Scott Bessent, for instance, the Secretary of the Treasury. He's worth $500 million. Do you think he cares if those people die? Do you think he wants to spend a cent on those people? No. Why would he care about any of these people at all? Mary Miller. Mary Miller's worth what? About $15 million? I'm not going to punch down, but I wanted to mention this. So I was doing landscaping for a little bit for folks, and a person out on the lake was talking to me, and she said, I don't know if you're into politics, but do you know who Mary Miller was? And I held my nose and told her, yeah, I know who she is. And she said, well, I was at a wedding with her over the weekend, and she was just the nicest lady. And I'm thinking back to how she went to that wedding but isn't here.
Yeah.
Cared enough to come down here for a wedding, didn't care enough to come down here and listen to any of you guys' complaints. Didn't want to look any of you guys in the face and say, I don't care if your loved ones die. You guys gonna vote for her? She had your best interest in mind, you think?
Well,
And unfortunately, she's been running unopposed for I don't know how long.
Not again, never again will we have Millers unopposed.
And
Millers will not be unopposed.
So he had talked about the tariffs. I've been here for 34 years. I'm sure a lot of you have been here even longer than me. You guys remember the square? You guys remember when there was a bunch of stuff out there? Moeller's was there was a big old bank over there. Almost every shop had stuff in it. What happened? You guys remember? Walmart came into town and started shutting down businesses because they could do it cheaper.
Started happening long before Walmart.
Right. But when these tariffs hit and these small businesses are having to pay even more for their products, what are they going to do? They're going to close their doors, or are they going to pay more? Are you guys going to pay more for their products when you can go to Walmart and pay less?
Still gonna make sense.
So I work in the factories. The factory that I work at is a just-in-time facility, meaning we produce what is ordered when it's ordered. Kind of like when you go to McDonald's. When you order your Big Mac, hopefully it is made right then and there, as opposed to your fries that are just made and they get picked up whenever they're ordered. So if people stop buying cars, we stop producing lamps, and then we lose our jobs because we don't have any product to produce. So we get a little humble for a second. I just bought a new van last year, for the first time ever. First time I've ever bought a brand new vehicle. Not even brand new, it's a couple years old. But anyway, it was $25,000. I walked in the door, I said, I have $25,000. I don't have any more. Please don't try and sell me anything else. That's how much I have. They showed me a couple vehicles. We found the one we wanted. It had all the features we needed. It was in fantastic condition. So I signed the line. They take me to the next room and try and sell me some more stuff for my car. And I decided to take a little bit out of my paycheck and get road hazard for it, which was fantastic. I've used it a whole bunch of times. If you guys have the opportunity, get road hazard. My point is these tariffs are predicted to add $5,000 to $7,000 to the average car. If my van had been $5,000 more, I would not have bought it. I would have had to either go without, or I would have had to purchase a lesser vehicle in a worse condition that more than likely would have needed repairs, which these tariffs are going to increase the cost of the parts. It's going to increase the cost of the labor. It's a windfall effect. And like I said with North American Lighting, for instance, if, let's say, and this is a hypothetical, I'm not in corporate or anything, if for some reason they were to lose a percentage of their work staff, or God forbid close their doors, it would decimate this town. There's so many people who work there who are used to that level of income that it would decimate those people, the taxes that company pays, not to mention the other factories. The town is more or less paid for by our factories and paid for, unfortunately, by Walmart.
What country owns North America?
Japan.
So that means that they also get tariffs because they are an international company.
Yes.
North American lighting is owned by Japan.
Yeah.
It is a sister company owned by Korea, yes.
Yes. So that means that, sorry, Daniel.
So being the fact that North American Lighting is a Japanese company, that means that with the tariffs, they would be more likely, instead of bringing manufacturing here, they more likely would slowly wind down manufacturing, which means jobs for 80% of our town.
I can't speak to any factory at all. What I can tell you is every single factory has to import products to do their work. Every single one.
Where do the lamps go? Do they stay in the country or do they go to Canada?
It depends on which company they're going to, but yes, they also leave the company to be, or leave the country to be assembled and then come back into the country.
So tariffs,
Both directions.
that direction too, which
Yeah.
would make other countries less likely to buy things from us.
Yes.
Absolutely. Once again, like I said, I'm not a corporate, so I can't speak to these numbers and everything, but these tariffs will affect each and every one of us. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you so much.
I mean, we're already hurt at the supermarket, right? What happens when your cart of groceries that's probably already $200 or $300 now goes up to $400 or $500?
Doesn't affect people who are above the income that most Americans are at.
Absolutely.
If you can pay for tickets to go see Taylor Swift for you and your family, you're probably not worried about what you're putting in the shopping cart at Costco or at Sam's Club or at Walmart. What we need to hit home with people is the idea that we, the Americans who do not own the level of property that would be required for our founding fathers to have a vote. We are the ones that get shipped over the seas. We're the ones that carry rifles. We're the ones that protect your corporate engines. If you want people well enough to carry rifles, don't cut SNAP. Don't cut your food programs for free lunches for schools.
Give them a country to fight for.
World War II, one of the first things that they had to do when they had people signed up for the military is they had to feed them. There were kids coming off of farms that were too malnourished to go to war against the Japanese, too malnourished to fight the Germans. If we want to live in an American age where we are the dominant superpower, which I think most people will agree that that's something that we as a nation probably are leaning towards. If you want to be the Great Britain of the early 1800s, if you want to be the Roman Empire, we have to look at our republic. We have to make sure that we don't make some of the same mistakes and go from a republic to an empire.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil, why don't you come back here for Q&A?
Sure.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and we are going to move to the
Thank you.
Q&A.
Yes, we are. Very well said. Okay, questions? Yes.
I don't have so much of a question, but my name is Bristol Zimmerman. I recently took over on the Coles County Board for District 12. So I did an election, I took over for somebody else. I sit on a board, I am the second, I am only one of 2 Democrats.
Ma'am?
Out of the 12 people.
Who did you replace?
Gail Crane-Mason.
Oh, yeah.
To Miss Gale.
She's great.
Yeah,
She's smart, she's a force to be reckoned with. They like me better right now, because maybe, I don't know, I'm younger or whatever. So this is what I want to tell you. I sit on the board, okay? I'm 2 months in. I have listened to people constantly tear apart our state, not the state of Illinois. Take it back. Tell them we are the greatest state in the country. Defend that we help our neighbors, that we are hard workers. Take it back from them. They pretend nobody works. That is not true. There are 2 full-time jobs and 2 part-time jobs in my household of 2 adults. All of my friends are working more than 1 job. We are college educated, some of us, and we still have more than 1 job. Take it back. Defend your state. Tell them you are a Democrat. Even if you are not a Democrat, tell them you're a liberal, a progressive. Tell them you are anything but what is going on in the White House right now. Because in real life, they will sit there and not have a word to say to you. They will cower. I am not kidding. I deal with it. I am on my own against all of them. They do not care. They only care about money. So what you do is you flip the script, okay? My father was a labor unioner, okay? You take it back from them. You tell them what real men do, okay? Real men work. I sit on a board with men that whine about getting home at 6 o'clock for supper. And you tell them that the men in our country that build our roads, that build our bridges, that are gonna build our wind turbines, that they miss out on their families. That the wives sit at home and work harder than Mary Miller, because I have worked with farmers and they are very busy during harvest, but they are home a lot of the time, okay? Union laborers are not. Tell them that when we bring jobs here, that it goes from labor union hall to labor union hall, and that it provides work. Real work, and defend it. That is what we have to do, okay? So also, they like to dominate religion. I'm not a religious person, but I have taken classes on the Bible, and I know a good deal about the Bible. Flip the script on them. Call them out when they are not acting like Christian, because they will try to always one up you everything I have never in my life met a man who works and digs ditches, or women too, but I'm with men, so I have to use the men there. I have never met a man who builds our country that does not want to feed children, ever. They are the toughest men. Take it back from the men that sit at desks and have 40-hour-a-week jobs.
We need to take back the idea that dirty hands is clean money.
Well,
Dirty hands is clean money.
that's right. And when you have clean money, when you work and when you read books, you can figure out how to survive. Don't let them intimidate you, because if you can read, you will survive. Push it. Get involved in your schools. Everybody is knocking schools. Homeschooling is huge, to the point it is ridiculous. I have a 9 and a 13-year-old. I'm involved in the schools. Good teachers, bad teachers, get involved. Seriously, help them however you can, and flip the script on them. Take everything back from them.
We do only have a little bit of time. I appreciate, this is what a real, these are the right? They are upset. They are, we really appreciate hearing.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
You have to be tough.
No, we appreciate
when
your
you are
passion. That's
here,
what we-
you're worried about
that's what we
children, you can be tough. You can be tough when you defend.
Excuse me, I missed the part, what ward are you from?
Coles County.
Coles County, the county board.
Yes. They took about.
Did anybody write down the question, by the way? No?
So, I don't know, if you can come a little forward, you can pass the mic.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you
need the
wanna
mic, I
come
can
up.
talk loud enough. So, Mr. Economist. Yes. I really liked your presentation. So I read somewhere, I don't know where, that if the international students are no longer allowed to come, that will lose a lot of money for Eastern Illinois University. Is that true? And if so, I mean, wouldn't that affect the economy? Very, very much so.
Oh, sure. I mean, the great thing about the international students is they pay full tuition. And it's coming from somewhere. And yes, that definitely would affect Eastern, which has already seen a drop in its student population. I think we once had a high, nearly 12,000 students. I think the last year I saw we were down about 7,000. So yeah, that would. Now, as far as I understand, right now, it's particularly the Harvard students that and the White House is mad.
Well,
I'm not
it
sure
is,
if it's-
but I think if I were a parent in another country and my child was considering coming to the United States for school, I would tell them absolutely not
Oh.
in this current environment.
I know that some European countries have issued travel warnings for coming to the United States, which is really horrifying to hear. 'Cause, I mean, most of the travel warnings that are issued by countries are for really unstable and dangerous places. The other thing is we really benefit from having international students come here. So that like the smartest people in the world come to learn here, and then they often stay here. So we get more and more of, the innovators and the people who are going to be, coming up with the next great ideas to sell to the rest of the world. And now we're having a brain drain.
I'll add to that, the United States is gonna host 2 international soccer tournaments, one this summer, one next summer, co-hosting with Canada and Mexico. And I don't know how many soccer fans there are out here. You'll never walk alone, Liverpool. But yeah, that's a big concern. And FIFA is one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. I mean, they are truly horrible. But now they have to deal with Trump. So yeah, and people are not looking forward to it. I mean, he's banned fans from some countries. And I don't know why these people would want to show up. So hopefully FIFA loses a lot of money and embarrasses its administration.
Okay, so we have a question down there, sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to address something that the woman back there mentioned about Eastern. I'm a student at Eastern. I studied political science there, going into my junior year. I've spent the 2 years that I've been there as a very active member of the student government. I, for the last year, met with Jay Gates, who was the president over there at EIU, every single month, sometimes twice a month. Just due to some things that the Biden administration had done with some student visas, we lost 300 international students last year. That's before the Trump administration. I can tell you from sitting in budget meetings that had a tremendous impact on EIU's budget, more than you think. The student life area, which is what I was mainly involved in, we saw a 10% budget cut at the end of the year. And once we all left, the board of trustees just voted the other day to approve a 15% budget cut to student life areas. So, I mean, as a student, I know how much that's going to affect me when I go back to school. There's going to be a lot of things that I really enjoyed or just services that I took part in that will not be there. And that's before, the student visa getting revoked that we're seeing now. So, I mean, I'm really, really afraid for the future of Eastern. I adore the school. It's my home. Paris is my home, but Eastern is my second home. And with the fact that international students, as it's described as brain drain, I mean, yeah, it's Harvard, but it's also Eastern, and it's Western, and it's these small state schools. Look at Western. They might go under in the next couple of years. I mean, really, we might not have Western Illinois. It gets me emotional, to be honest with you, how much I worry about my school. I've done everything a student can to be active and to fight. That's why I got involved with Ben, is because I see somebody in a broader level trying to fight for my home and my community. It's really scary what this administration is doing, but you're absolutely right. I mean, already we've seen such an impact on our university. It's going to get worse. And as they've so eloquently said, like all of this, it's just, you said a windfall earlier. It's one thing after another until, people are dying, your schools are closing, your factories have gone overseas, and the hellscape that we're left to live in, there's no home for us anymore. It's horrific.
Now, I would like to expand upon that. In the atrocity that is this bill,
That is already cutting into things like the Pell Grant, which most students actually require for financial aid. They are also been revoking visas, which means they are purposely making students who are immigrating here for school, they are making them illegal. They didn't come over here illegal. They came over here on a student visa. They came over here legally, and they are revoking those visas, making them illegal so that they can deport them. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I can't buy that. I think that our governor is making a great stride by making sure that if you do well in high school, that you will be accepted to any Illinois school. I would like to expand upon that, and I won't go to it now, but I already am working on. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add that with what's happening in immigration currently, I don't know if you guys have heard folks say, I don't care as long as they do it the right way. A lot of these people were doing it the right way when they were snatched up off the streets, all for the purpose of increasing the numbers and making it look like an effective thing. We're not in the situation we're in because of people who aren't from our country. I can promise you that. They didn't shut our square down. They didn't make it where we have 5 factories to choose from to work in town and a couple of little spotted places, and Walmart. Yeah, they were doing it the right way. So if you're a believer in immigration the right way, we might want to look into what's happening right now.
Well, expanding on immigration the right way, I know that they have targeted a lot of people who came here as asylum seekers. And, I mean, people seem to feel that asylum seekers often are illegal because of the nature of how they came to the country. But as I joke, The Sound of Music didn't end with Von Trapp's going to the Swiss embassy and filling out paperwork and then waiting some months to hear back from Switzerland. It ended with them walking across the Alps into Switzerland. But beyond that, I have a question for you about earmark money. So can you talk about that a little bit and if we'll actually do it?
This is the only district in the state of Illinois that does not receive any earmark money, period. Earmark money is set aside, is actually what we pay our taxes for, bringing money back into the communities. A lot of this money is for infrastructure, road improvements, school improvements, things that need to be done, you know. The things I kind of equated to. How many here still have cast iron pipes? How many still have clay pipes? That's what that money's for.
Lead pipes too.
Lead pipes too.
I think, was it Kristen that recently had issues with removing lead pipes?
So that's what this money's for. How many has a bad intersection in their town?
I'd like to mention that I live on one of the oldest streets in town. It is literally sinking into the ground. They put a, 15 by 15 foot patch into it last year that I would use to spin my rope dart on because it was the most flat portion. It is now the most wavy portion of my road.
I would just like to make a comment. I would like to congratulate and for what we're witnessing in this room, that folks are still civically participating, given the circumstances that we're in. In 1972, my now deceased father immigrated to this country from a little known country at that time named Pakistan. And throughout his entire life, he would always tell me, Mustafa, this is the best country in the world because you have a chance, if you work hard, to make it here. You have the right to vote. That is not afforded to most people around the world. And when I come to Paris, Illinois, and I see you folks taking your time this evening to show up, we said earlier we don't triple down, but I want to triple up on the faith in this country because people like you exist. And so, it's very poignant for me to be in this district when the broadside vicious attack of Muslims came out of your representative here, unfounded, right? Not even, but guess what? I've been living in that climate since I've been a child in this country, right? That's gone without pushback everywhere. So I implore us all to look beyond the narrative and in the labels, because bad people are bad. They're not bad because they're part of this group or that group or that group. They're bad people, and there are good people. And so I just want to add to this that I'm sitting here motivated and moved that you all show up, and I encourage us all to continue to show up, because that's the beauty of this country, that there are people like all of you in this room that look at each other commonly, not by where our forefathers came from or our grandmothers came from. And so, happy Father's Day to all of our fathers, living and deceased, and bless you all.
I had a question for the economist. So I was reading an article today, and it stated that approximately 7.3 million jobs since 1980 have gone to China since they started interacting in world trade. And I also have heard that the rationale behind these tariffs is to supposedly bring back some American jobs, but I feel like that expectation is just not going to happen. This method, we can look and brag about, so many thousand jobs coming back here and there, but there's no way you're going to get $7.3 million, jobs back. So, what would be a more sound method of doing so?
An easy question, right?
I'm not running for anything.
That's a great.
It is a great question. You're right. Yeah, we have lost jobs. On the radio, I heard a report, maybe it was a podcast of some sort, but they were just talking about the idiocy of trying to think that Apple is going to come back and start manufacturing phones in the United States. It's cheap, and that's where the rare earth minerals that they need to make them. Exactly. And I forget what governor the administration was talking about. We're going to bring back jobs, so our perhaps 7 and 8 year olds with nice tiny hands can Howard Lutnick, so they can solder together the boards they need for this. No, not going to happen. How to bring jobs back? We got to focus, as every nation needs to focus on, what do we do well? Clearly, agriculture is something we are gifted with, some of the most fertile land, in the world. And we have the technology. It's a matter of focusing on that, and that's again where the education comes. But I'm sorry, I don't have any particular answer about what the next big thing is going to be that's going to say and how we all get jobs. Yeah.
Basically what you're saying is, those jobs aren't coming back. We should stop thinking about it as the jobs coming back. It's finding the new jobs. Because I know with some industries, they've talked about how many jobs, if you had the ideal situation when jobs came back, there would be. And it's not that many in the end, because, obviously technology has also changed since those jobs left, and now the factories require fewer workers, and.
You're absolutely right. That's been a more, a greater effect on our labor supply has been automation as opposed to trade. In the back.
Having worked in HR for 23 years before I got sick of it and decided to go and help senior citizens, there aren't enough workers in their country right now to bring jobs back. So we're exporting all those workers. Trump is, we're not. We need those immigrants. If we want to bring jobs back home, you have to have people to work those jobs. And we're an aging society, and most of us are over 50. And so there's no way we can bring them all back, even if they build all the factories, because we don't have enough people. Japan doesn't have enough people. The whole world's got a declining population. Heck, they'll pay us to move to Italy or Ireland. right now. So we don't have the people to work the job, so we need to find a different solution. Aren't we at full unemployment? Full employment?
When I started teaching economics and we started talking about employment levels, we would get swings, up in the 10, 12% unemployment rates. And we always kind of focused, and this is from the U.S. Department of Labor and the Bureau of Economic Analysis and the Federal Reserve, they're always targeting an unemployment rate of full employment, that oxymoronic measure they have, of about 5%. And we have been well under 5% for a long time now. We got as low as 3.8, 3.7s. And currently, I believe we're at 4, or just a bit over 4. So,
Underemployment?
I'm sorry?
Does that take underemployment into account?
It counts them as employed. Yes. It also does not count the people who look for jobs in towns like Paris, towns like Charleston, and there are only so many employers. And they give up looking. And once you give up looking, you're not unemployed anymore. You're out of the labor force. We don't count you.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but while a lower unemployment rate sounds good, the lower it gets, doesn't that lock people into their jobs because there aren't other jobs to go get, stopping upward mobility?
I think usually if the unemployment rate is low, it's because firms and industries are looking for more workers. They're hiring more workers. It's harder to find those jobs when the unemployment rate is high and everybody else is looking.
So working in the technology field, I have noticed, I think we all have, that automation is becoming a more prominent feature in our lives. This, of course, does affect employment. It does push people out of jobs. As we transition, what we need to start focusing on, I believe, is retraining and redirecting our workforce to start adjusting for the fact that labor isn't going to be as prominent the more that automation kicks in. Even my job, where we're working to automate more things in my work queue, tickets and issues like that. So it's still having an effect on even my job in technology. Now, this isn't impossible to adjust. Countries like Japan, they're able to work 14-hour weeks to be able to overcome poverty. There are several other countries that also can work 30-hour weeks to overcome poverty. I'm good, yes?
I think so.
Just making sure. I don't want to, listen, if I don't know, my job as an analyst is to find answers. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. But I know how to find it. We do need to start balancing the fact that labor isn't going to be as prominent, jobs are not going to be as prominent. This gives us a rare opportunity as automation becomes more integrated into our lives to adjust the fact that we made the system, we can fix the system where we may not need to have personal labor and work 40 hours just to make a living. We shouldn't have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to feed our families and spend 60 hours a week away from them. We can fix the system and we can use the integration that we're now facing as pushing people out of jobs to adjust it so it's not necessary.
Are you talking mainly about artificial intelligence then?
Artificial intelligence does play into a lot of automation. Sadly, it needs a lot of work. Even in cybersecurity, I do not fully trust it. I double check it, I triple check it, and I make sure that, I need to make sure that customers in my field, if it is automated, if it's sent out to them to investigate, that they're not reviewing for investments. But it is getting perfected. It is putting people out of work. We need to make changes and refocus so that it doesn't cost their families their livelihoods. And I think that in Illinois, we will start working towards that. I like people smarter. I like maybe we can innovate and use it to improve our lives, but we have to do it in a calculated and intelligent way. Any other questions?
The one thing that bothers me in this country is nobody has brought up anything about crime and what's going on here in America with the crime and the illegals that's come over here and killed. Yes, we've got our own Americans that are killing too, but this is all focused mainly on being like on money. That's safe to read, just like all the politicians. What about the crime here in America? Let's look at that and just settle on that.
So, I just to cut in, sorry, I know, I was reading an article and it talked about how actually the crime in the United States has been dropping for decades. We just feel like the crime has increased because our media has.
24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, yes.
It's shoved in your face constantly.
Every
So,
bike stolen is on Facebook.
so let me start off by telling you, if prices go up and people lose their jobs, crime is going to go up. People are not just going to starve to death. They're going to commit crimes to feed their families. As far as the illegals, yeah. I'll jump in.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my last name is Collins. That is an Irish name. I am Irish and I am French Canadian. My French Canadian relatives and ancestors came over between 1890 and 1901. I am a 6th generation immigrant. The only reason that we have illegal immigrants is because we put regulations in place. Before it was you came over to Ellis Island, you got stamped. Welcome to America. We hope you build your dreams. They're only illegal because we made them illegal. This country was built on immigration. They built the streets, the bridges, the infrastructure. There is no one illegal on stolen land. We have the Statue of Liberty given to us because we are to welcome everyone in this country. You want to get rid of illegal immigrants, then you reform immigration to make it easier for them to improve our country. Our country booms, our economy booms when they come in, they bring their skill sets, they bring their labor. Immigrants, they get work permits. They pay taxes. They pay billions of taxes. They only get
3 billion last year.
93 billion in taxes. They only get a portion of the benefits from it.
No one wants to say this out loud, so I'll say it. Hey, the Romans had an immigration policy. Their immigration policy was if you wanted Roman citizenship, you joined the Legion. You want to go ahead and solve our southern border crisis? We have Marines in Camp Pendleton. We have Marines in Miramar. We have Marines in Yuma. We have a Marine Reserve unit in New Orleans. You have a division of Marines in North Carolina and South Carolina. You can go ahead and put the Marines across the southern border, have them build recruitment centers across it. And you want to come to North Cape there, my American house?
We
Come
do.
on.
Actually, we
Join
have
the
had immigrants that have served in our military.
And have been sent
And
back.
they have been sent back after they have
Half the
served
citizenship
our
must
country.
be made.
We need to fix the immigration system that we broke in the first place. Because we do better the more people that come to this country. They are what grows our economy. And honestly, when we have a lower birth rate in our country, they are what fills that gap to keep us from stagnating. So you can hate on illegal immigrants all you want. I don't know about you, but I'm a descendant of immigrants. And if it wasn't for my family coming over, I would be an American citizen. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something about the crime. I have been taking part in a crime survey that our government has been doing. A woman from the Census Bureau contacts me every few months, and she asks me questions, and I get to ask her questions. And it's a back and forth. She asks me if I have had any crime, if I've experienced any crime, if I've seen any crime, if I, all that stuff. And I get to ask her the similar questions. If any crime has been occurring, if she's seen an increase in crime, if things like that have been happening, if it's been going on, around our country and whatnot. And what she said, ma'am, is that it's been on the decrease. Generally speaking, there have been pockets of crime on when things get crazy, in certain areas. She did say that things have gotten, that there have been spikes. But generally speaking, crime has been on the decrease. That is what she said. So, yeah. And it's fun. I know it's weird, but it's fun. So, yeah.
I'd like to add to that. I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but non-citizens, which is what we can refer to them as, they're human beings, might I remind you, commit crimes at a much lower rate than citizens, because you know what the penalty is? The penalty for them is to go back to whatever they were trying to escape.
Yeah.
They don't come here thinking that they're going to get a house and free money and everything in between. Keep in mind that they're coming to a country where a lot of people have been set up to hate them. I don't get it. Numbers in crime have been dropping. Non-citizens commit crimes at lower numbers than citizens. It has been put in your face to give you an enemy to hate. I'm going to go a little off topic. The modern day Republican Party does not offer you anything but fear. They tell you to fear trans people, fear immigrants. They're going to get you. They're going to turn you gay.
It's your neighbor, they're neighbors, they're gonna send you down south.
Absolutely.
They are.
We are getting towards the end here, I understand, and it's starting to get late. Yeah, there is.
Before you do, I just wanted to add one last thing. This came out just 2 days ago. The guy in the White House took time out to go to the Kennedy Center to watch Les Miserables. And you've probably heard this. He was asked, well, which character do you like better, Javert or Jean Valjean? He goes, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a pretty easy choice on that thing, but yeah, that's where he spends his time.
I am gonna make one more comment and then we'll take one last question. And this one hits close to the heart. I am going to touch on the trans topic. Ladies and gentlemen, and I am going to address some things that my opponent has been putting out there. There's been this very big controversy about trans girls in sports. You can't have somebody,
and call them weak because they're transitioning from a male to a female, and then say that they are too strong to compete in women's sports, and you make up your mind one or the other. If you want to solve a problem, they're not going away. Gay people are not going away. Mexican people are not going away. It doesn't matter how much you hate them, they are not going away. They've existed since the beginning of time, just like we have. And instead of hating them, how about we actually make some policies that make living together better? If you don't want them in your sport, fine. Let's write policies that make it equal. Let's base it on weight. Let's base it on muscle mass. Let's make it even, because they're not going anywhere. And I'm sorry, I have several people who are trans that are male to female and female to male. Stop going after the people I love.
Well, to add on to that, I know nobody ever complained when I was in high school that the cisgendered woman who was, 6 inches taller than me had an unfair advantage when we played basketball because we were both, born women. So why is it that sports are inherently unfair? There are people who have more advantage and less advantage. That's just sports.
You realize we're talking about a party that doesn't understand the word exceptionalism, let alone any other words in the English language.
Everyone in this country is protected by the First Amendment to express themselves however they wish to be. And if they wish to express themselves as a different gender, that is their right to do so. And if you have a problem with it, then we make policies to make it better for everyone. I don't care your skin, I don't care your race, I don't care what's between your legs. You express yourself how you want to express yourself. Period. That's fine.
Last question?
I just wanted to answer a quick little fact here, since sports is such a big thing for the trans community and whatnot. Issue.
There are 3, sir.
Yeah.
In the state of Illinois, there are 3 trans people participating in sports professionally. 3.
Great. Any advantage at approximately 3 to 5 years of hormone therapy of like physical advantage goes away. I mean, it's just a waiting game. You can't just say that somebody has undergone this process and just say that they have to be banned. It's not how that works.
I'd love to address that. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you know what the process of transitioning takes. It is years. You go through therapy to make sure that you understand the choice that you're about to make. You take hormones for years to have your body adjust the muscle mass, the balance. It is not a simple process that people do to try and be perverted. They go through social stigmas. Do you really think that somebody is going to spend years of their life so that they can go into a girl's restroom to be a pervert? They're going to go through people shaming them and hating them for years so that they can go and violate somebody else's rights?
That kind of person is just going to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to go into the freaking locker rooms and they're not going to go through years of trouble and stigma and hate just to violate someone else.
Rapists spend less time in prison than people do on transition. So, are they going to spend all the time and the money on hormones?
Just
Or
so
are they
they can
just
pursue
gonna
it.
get slapped on the wrist for doing bad stuff anyway?
And honestly, the money and the time and the pain to fully transition in with an operation, I'm sorry, I don't think anybody wants to go through that just so that they can violate someone else. So, I apologize, I went on a rant.
I just wanted to mention, I don't know how many people here are religious, follow faith, deeply, what have you. I personally do not, I'll admit that. But if you do, I want you from here on to take the time to look into the things that Mary Miller has to say and see how often she uses God to attack people. I don't know if we follow the Old Testament, but I don't think he's really into that stuff. I thought he was about loving people and that sort of thing. But look into how much she uses God to attack people.
Her cult is the Hockey's Assembly,
the leader of Jeff Coffey's assembly, George Jeff Coffey, sexually abused his granddaughters. There are websites devoted to getting people out of Jeff Coffey's assembly. The granddaughter there's a book, I couldn't find it the last time I looked on Amazon. Look up the cult, that is the cult Mary Miller was in for years, okay? Big time molesting children, so use that. It doesn't matter, but they have children. She had those people on her own, but she was definitely.
Well, everybody, it looks like we made it to the end of the.
One last.
We got one more.
One last.
I'll make it quick, I promise. That's fine. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about, members of Congress specifically using God to kind of protect their blatant transphobia and hatred for other people. It's carried on into the classroom. They're using it as an excuse to ban books from children. I wrote about this in an essay for one of my English classes. They're banning books at a horrifying rate. And children reading a book about a trans person, reading a book about somebody who is a part of the LGBTQ plus community is not going to turn them gay, and it's not going to drive them away from God. If anything, it's teaching them about being inclusive. It's teaching them, about other groups of people that exist. They're going to have to coexist with them at some point. They need to learn about these groups of people, and they need to learn to accept them as they are. That's all.
Cecilia?
All right, so, let's try it again. Looks like we've made it to the end of the road. So, again, hi, I'm Cecilia with Eastern Illinois Indivisible, and I thank y'all so much for making it to the end of this. And I thank everyone for participating, and I am going to hand things off to Diane to wrap things up.
Thank you. My name is Diane Burnt. I am the state lead for our beautiful state of Illinois. I live in Berwyn. If anyone watches Spangoolie, I'm sure you've heard about Berwyn. He is a native son. And I have friends everywhere. Does anybody know that reference? We'll come back to it. I want to thank you all for being here. I'm glad that you came and got introduced to the union. As Jacqueline said in the beginning, we are a pro-democracy group. We don't care if you voted for Trump, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're a Libertarian. If you don't like what is going on in this country right now, we welcome you here. So thank you for being here. The sheet that you got when you came in, my information, my contact information is at the bottom of that sheet. It's Illinois@jointheunion.us, and my name is there too. It's spelled kind of weird. I tell everyone my mom didn't know how to spell. But back to I have friends everywhere. That is a secret code phrase used by, and this is a pop culture reference, used by people in the Star Wars sphere, specifically in the Andor show. And that is a code phrase that they use. There were a lot of groups in that universe. Some got along, some did not, some agreed, some did not, but they all realized that they had to work together to defeat the Empire. And so they would say that phrase so that they could recognize each other in a crowd and not draw a lot of attention to themselves. So I'm glad that I met all of you. I'm glad I have friends everywhere. And welcome to the Rebel Alliance.
If anybody is going to any of the No Peace protests tomorrow, be vigilant, keep your eyes open, be peaceful, follow the law. Thank you for standing up for our democracy.
Mr. Gilchrist.
That's so awesome. Well, I heard that, yeah.
No, I want to raise $5,000 and spend $5,000.